Jason, Heidi, welcome to the show. Thank you guys for being on. For everybody who's listening, Jason and Heidi are the owners of Monster Games. They are the new owners of HOA, which is the Heart of America competition that is out of Springfield, Missouri, previously owned by Jeremy Meyer, previous guest of the Protein Bros podcast. And they also are now the event director of the World Fitness Project?
The United States event director.
Nice. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We also have a co-host today, a special co-host, owner of MC CrossFit, stud head trainer, Nathan Martin, also a previous guest of Protein Bros podcast. Welcome on as well, Nathan.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back.
You're only being nice because I write your workouts every week.
I should say the killer of the Concept 2 bike, rower, anything regarding, which you might be able to put him,
could.
I do have some weight behind me, that's for sure.
Yeah, he just dominates me in anything that's, if there's rowing in it, or if there's bike in it, or if it's a heavy snatch or heavy clean, I'm just like, well, Nathan's just going to beat me in this, no matter what.
Got to have your wheelhouse movements.
That's true.
That's right.
That's true. So thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. This is great.
Yeah, excited for Monster Games to come to Kansas City. It's always been such a huge event. If you're in the Midwest, actually it's a national, event that you guys put on, huge event, but it's cool to have it in Kansas City. It's definitely the biggest CrossFit event that we've ever had here in Kansas City. So it's exciting to bring it to Kansas City. What made you guys decide it's time to take this to Kansas City?
We're, we live in Joplin, live in Webb City actually. But we own gyms in Joplin, and we've had it there for 7 years. And we knew a couple of years ago that we probably need to start looking. We started, we do follow-ups with all of our athletes. Hey, tell us about the weekend. We need to know what we're doing good, what we're doing bad, what we need to fix. Like, it's very important to us to understand just the culture of what's happening. And we want feedback. Sometimes it's hard to listen to, because you think you're killing it, and they're just like, oh, there's 6 or 7 things we just missed. And so one of the things we got year over year as we started getting bigger was like, man, it's really hard to get to Joplin if you're flying. It's easy if you're driving. But if there's anything else going on in town, the hotels are booked, and baseball is huge in Joplin. And so there's always baseball tournaments, and you're always fighting, your hotels being full of 12-year-old boys, and that's rough. And so that happened last summer where there's a massive baseball tournament. We tried like crazy to work around it and couldn't. But we just knew it was time. We knew if we were going to continue to grow. We were at Missouri Southern. I played baseball at Missouri Southern, so I'm an alum. So my heart was there. They treated us fantastic. They didn't want us to leave, but at the same time, they could not help us expand. And so we needed to do that. So we started looking for cities. It basically came down to Oklahoma City and Kansas City. In our hearts, we knew. And they were both probably 50-50. And the guys that visit Overland Park from the moment they came and showed us the facilities and talked to us about their vision, because they had listened to what we wanted, and they said, hey, here's what we think we can do. I mean, they were just spot on. And we just knew we weren't going to have to lead them where we wanted to go, that they understood where we needed what we needed from them, what we needed from facilities, what we needed from gyms. And so it also didn't help that it didn't hurt, that my co-event director is the manager of Overland Park CrossFit. So, that made sense for us. Jacob Hepner helps program for us. He's a really good friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time, and he's been trying to get us to move up here. So at the end of the day, it felt right. And we trust the visitor at Overland Park. Those guys we knew they had it. So that was a huge reason why too.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited about it. So tell us about, you guys have obviously, you guys were gym owners prior to, and during, when you guys were starting up Monster Games, correct?
Yeah, we were.
Is that what got you guys into wanting to start an event like this? And what made you want to grow it into a national event?
Well, I'm not sure that Heidi wanted to grow it into a national event.
That's not fair.
We had a lot on our plate. But, originally, gym owners start competitions because you need new plates. Like, how are we going to, it's the gym business is hard. We need new machines. We want to convert from assault bikes to echo bikes or whatever it is, and so you're just like, well, let's throw an event and see what happens. And so we put an event together, and it did well. It was fun and popular. And then Actually, funny story, Olivia Kerstetter competed as an 11-year-old in our RX division the very first year.
She snatched like 220 back then.
That's
crazy.
So it's kind of our funny Olivia story. I've known her for a long time, and she came, and there was an athlete that got hurt on a team. And Russ Kerstetter came to me. He goes, "Hey, like if you need someone to step in, Olivia can do it." He's like, "I gave her permission to do that." And we're like, "Okay." So at 11 years old, she stepped in.
Wild. What was the workout?
Well, they got hurt very, very early on in the
So she did the 3 or 4 events.
Yeah, she had to do at 11 years old. She had to do 15 overhead squats at 125 pounds unbroken.
Oh my goodness!
Whoa!
I mean, that is, if you really think about that, that is insanity.
Yeah,
that's twice as much as Luke can do now.
right.
So that's my fun Olivia story, and I give her a hard time about it, and that she was there at the beginning. So, but yeah, you started to do that, and when Heidi and I sat down, and I remember that first. It was a 1-day event. It was over, and we sat on the boxes, and we're like, man, that was fun. Mm-hmm. That was a lot of work, and we made a little bit of money to go buy some equipment, and we're like, that was fun. And so I knew right then. I was like, we need to get out of the gym if we ever want to make this thing big. So I went and talked to Missouri Southern. Again, I'm an alum. So they were super open to the idea of hosting our competition. And so I was like, hey, I think I want to take this off site. And Heidi was like, well, how are we going to do that? We don't know what we're doing. I was like, we didn't know what we were doing when we opened a gym either. So you figure it out, like we're smart. And so we did. We moved it to Southern, and it kind of sparked a little bit. That's the first year that Jacob started helping me program the event. We're like, hey, we need some help. Like, I don't want to just make this very Jason Ansley biased programming. Let's bring a psychopath in to help program it. And that's Jacob's right up his alley.
Yeah.
And we did. And people came on campus and they loved it. And Vendor Village was empty. And it was just catching on. But it was, people left going, that was cool. That was really cool. And then the year after that, COVID hit.
Yikes.
Yeah. So you rolling into year 3, 5 weeks from our third Monster Games, Missouri Southern calls me and says, hey, we can't have you on campus. And money was already paid. I mean, registration fees were collected. We were sold out. And I was just like, oh no. So we sat down. There was panic and maybe a couple of tears. We're just like, what are we going to do? Like, we're not far enough along in this where we know what we're doing, where we have proper insurance. But we're also like, we're just going to refund everybody's money, and we'll just take it in the shorts. This is what you do. And so we had a friend of mine is a pastor at a church. He knew what we were going through, and he helped me try to find some other facilities, and it wasn't panning out. And he's like, hey, we just built a brand new church. I talked to the people I need to talk to. We want to host you guys. And I'm
no kidding.
Yeah. And I'm like, we can't do that. Like, we're a Sunday competition. He's like, if you'll back it up a day and get out of here by 5 p.m. on Saturday, you can have it here. And so I told Heidi, and she's, of course, she's all the problems that's going to exist when this are true.
You're the visionary. She's the executor.
Or he calls me the Debbie Downer, or wet blanket.
You got to have that, though. You got to have some balance.
You got somebody that kind of reels you back a little bit.
You do.
Think about this.
So you do that, and we wound up having it there, and part of our story is we're people of faith, and we just like Cody, the pastor, he told me, he's like, hey, you know what? Someone may walk in to compete at your competition, and that may be the only time they ever walk into church. And I was like, he was tugging at my heartstrings a little bit. And we actually had several people tell us, like, hey, we've never been in a church before, nor would we ever walk in one. And this was really cool. Thank you. We're like, okay, that was a huge win for us. So,
that is pretty cool.
And that, on top of the fact that it was COVID year and we were one of the only competitions in the country going. And so we got real popular real fast.
Yeah.
I mean, my phone was, when we announced we were going to continue to have it, my phone went crazy because everybody wanted in. And so we took as many people as we possibly could, like, safely. And we did it. And we had it there for 2 years in a row because 2021 was the same thing. State universities, you can't be on campus. And so we had it there in 20 and 21. And it kind of put us on the map a little bit. And then we signed with First Form after that, and it kind of took off.
Sweet, man. Yeah. So for people who are listening, give them an idea as to, basically with the Monster Games, you have to qualify for it. Correct.
Everybody.
So explain that process to somebody that maybe is not, familiar with it.
Yeah. So we decided back in COVID years, we had a waiting list as many long as we had competing. So we're just like, are we getting the best athlete here? It is a competition. It's not class. And so I take a pretty strong stance on the competition side, whereas I ran a gym as a coach, it's all, you want to do everything you can to help everybody. But when it's competition day, like that's for the best. And if you can't make it here, then I don't typically apologize for that. Like you're going to go home and work harder and you'll get here. And that was kind of the mindset that we had. And so that means qualifier. If we want the best here to get it, we want you to have to earn your spot. So we rolled out the qualifier in year one, and it was, for a first year qualifier, it was pretty successful, and everybody liked the fact that they earned their spot there. And so once we did that, and then this year we had 2,000 people do our qualifier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there was a couple of people in our gym that qualified for it too. There was a workout that was relatively brutal. It was a Jacob Hepner special. I believe it was a clean and burpee workout.
Yes, that was Jacob's.
I was like, that's a lot of burpees.
Yeah, that's Jacob's workout.
Yeah, that was brutal.
For sure.
Brutal. So you guys also, purchased HOA.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Obviously, we've been friends with Jeremy Meyer for a long time, and HOA has been, I think I worked the first HOA with First Form. So it's been a long-standing competition in the Midwest. How'd that happen,
I long-time competitor at HOA, and anybody that's participated in that event, Heidi wasn't a competitor, but like she was with me all the time. So she got to experience all of these competitions with me, and she knows when a competition's run well and when it's not, and when you're having a good time, when it's not. And so coming home from HOA every year was just like, this is my weekend. Like I loved it. And I wasn't even a team athlete. I was an individual athlete. I competed on the master's level as an independent or as an individual. But it's just one of those weekends that like you can go suffer with friends. And there's no better human than Jeremy. I mean, like nobody cares as much about his space as Jeremy does, and it shows. And I learned a lot from him. I mean, part of the reason, most of the things I do at Monster with my athletes came from him. I mean, I learned a lot from him. I competed there for 8 years. And so it was important to me.
I probably handed you some protein at some point.
Probably did.
Here, man, you look tired.
Yeah. So when it shut down, I knew Jeremy well enough to know that we had a couple conversations, and he let me know like, hey, we're coming up on some issues that we've got to have some follow up with Jenny's heart, for everybody that knows that story. And then, he's got kids that are competitive in sports, and his son travels in basketball, and they're in a busy time of life, and we're empty nesters. And so it was like, the timing was really right, where I called him. I said, hey, here's the deal. I don't know where you are with it. I don't know what you think about me. But if there was ever an opportunity that I could help you carry on the torch of HOA, I just want you to know that I'd be interested. I'm not telling you that I want to buy it. I don't want to take it over. I just want, if you're wanting to continue it on and time is the problem, I want you to know I'm going to offer my time and my talent and give that to you, because I want to help bring it back. And so I think that went a long way with him, and I think he molded over. And then we had a couple more conversations, and he's like, I don't think I want to do that yet. So about 6 months later, him and I connected again, and I just said, let's get together and talk. Like, let's get face to face and not have a phone call. Let's get our wives together. And look, I want to cast you a vision, and I want you to hear it. And I want to hear your heart. I want to hear Jenny's heart. So we went to dinner with him in Springfield, and, within 15 minutes of the conversation, we were both like, we've got to make this happen. What does it look like? And I was like, I said, well, who's going to be the boss? Because we were just going to partner.
Oh yeah.
And, I'm like, who's going to be the boss? And he's like, well, I don't want to have a boss. And I'm like, well, I don't want to really have a boss either. And I was like, well, why don't I just buy it?
Yeah.
And he kind of looked over at Jenny, and he's like, hey, what do you think? And she's like, I think it's the right time. And so from that point on, we just kind of started shifting from a partnership to what would it look like to own it outright. But I wanted Jeremy in the process in year one. And so we worked out a deal where it makes a whole lot of sense for him, both financially and just investing in the community, to be involved in the first year. And so he's going to be a big part of this first transition year. So
is it going to be at Springfield CrossFit?
No, we're moving it back to the Springfield Expo Center.
Nice.
So it just, unless you own the CrossFit gym, it makes it really hard to run an event in a CrossFit gym.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see
what I
that.
mean?
Yeah.
So I was just like, I understand how to run events off site, and it's like, it's important to, I competed at the Expo Center and I competed at Jeremy's gym, and I love Jeremy's gym. CrossFit Springfield's amazing, but the Springfield Expo Center is just better from an outsider standpoint.
It's more like where you would actually have an event at. So
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your personal, history with CrossFit as being an athlete yourself.
Yeah.
Can you go back into, basically your competitive history?
Yeah. I found CrossFit when I was 39. And of course, fell in love with it. I played baseball, and then I left the competitive world of sports to nothing, which I think a lot of people struggle with. And I was no different, and got married and had kids, and thought that I was in shape until I took my first CrossFit. I'm like, oh, I am not in shape. This is
Everyone has that moment where you're like, God,
like,
it's not good.
I've had it several times.
Burns
I
in your
still
brain.
have those moments.
I know, I do. Like, I learned real quick testing monster workouts. I'm like, I shouldn't be testing these. And so, I did it. I felt the very first competition I ever did was at a CrossFit 417. It was Shred Fest. I don't know if you remember.
Jared Stevens?
Jared Stevens gym, Shred Fest. So I went and competed there, and I did well at that time. And I wasn't a master's athlete yet. And they didn't have 35 to 39 division at that time. So, but once they did, it started to be a goal of mine. Like, I wanted to, at that time, back in those days, it was, if you're the top 200 in your age division, then you qualified for the masters and you get to go on and try to make it to the games. So that was always my goal. So once I made the top 200, the very first year I made the top 200, I finished 24th in the world. And I'm like, okay, I think I can make a run at this. And so then it kind of became a focus and of doing that. And to the detriment of my wife and I's relationship, maybe took too much of a front seat sometimes. She'd probably admit that. But
So what year was that in?
That was in 2018.
Okay,
and
nice.
then so from then and then for the semifinals, I wound up getting hurt my neck, and at this point, I'm 47 and I'm old, and you get really, really fit, and then something small is just like can just sideline you.
Yeah.
Tore my meniscus, tore a ligament in both of my thumbs, had surgery on both of my thumbs, had surgery on my right knee, came all the way back from that. Competed again. Then they took the top 30, made the top 30, and did that multiple times. And so and then I qualified for Legends. I finished second at Legends, and the qualifier to do that. And Legends is a high-end masters competition. And so I kind of bounced around these competitions, and I just loved it. Like, it was great. And my goal all along was my goal is the fittest I've ever been is probably right when I was turning 50. As odd as that sounds, I had learned a lot about the sport. I had learned a lot about my body. My co-event director, Stephen Tackett, was coaching me and getting me to the point where it was like, I was training Chris Ibarra at the time, and him and I were training together every day. And so I was training with a 23-year-old and not getting hurt and keeping with the open workouts. I was ready to go. And then some opportunities came up to where to go work for the Masters CrossFit Games through Legends. And I had to sit down and said, Heidi, what do you think? And she's just like, you're not going to be okay not competing. She's just like, this is what you've been talking about forever. Is this is the year. I didn't want to go make it to the games. I was ready to go win the games. I was at that point. And God had different plans, and he's just like, I think I have a different path for you. And so we kind of started down the path of being event director with Legends and working with them. And we got the CrossFit Games Masters, and I couldn't even sign up to do the Open. I couldn't compete it anymore. So, but we agreed, we made the decision to retire and do that and step away from the sport. And it brought us on a crazy path of all these opportunities that would not have happened had I not taken them.
For sure. Yeah. It's like, you retired from competing, but you've almost started
100%.
increasing your the amount of stuff that you guys are doing by a significant amount.
Yeah, by tenfold.
Yeah. Are you guys so are you still affiliated with the CrossFit Games at all?
No, once I took the job with World Fitness Project, that was obviously one of the things. You can't do both.
Yeah. So explain the World Fitness Project to listeners that might not be familiar with it.
Yeah, World Fitness Project we're a tour season. So if you can think of Live Golf or F1 racing or T1 triathlon stuff, everything is built around a season instead of one particular weekend. So whereas the games, everything is the pinnacle is the CrossFit Games weekend. And any point in the qualifying process, if you have a bad weekend or you get hurt, you're other than this year, you're kind of screwed. Mm-hmm. And so it's we saw a lot of athletes that were sick during the Open, sick during semifinals, whatever, had not had a good weekend, and their season is done. And so our director of sport is Will Morad, who's a multi-time CrossFit Games athlete, and he's just like, this is hard on athletes. They're not making any money. They're sacrificing everything, and if you have a cold at the wrong time, your year could literally be done. And so any money they do make with at that level with any sort of sponsor or something, like, you're running the risk of getting cut from the sponsorship team. So the goal of it was to, like, let's put together a tour season that accumulates points, and so you can have a bad weekend and you're not dead, and you can go on to tour 2, and then once you finish tour 2, then the finals are worth double points. And so at the end of the season, you have a leaderboard that's an accumulation of what your years look like, and instead of one weekend. And that's the idea of it, is to do that, to pay the athletes, put them on contract, have them have a base minimum pay, and in turn for that, then they're choosing. Now they're not contractually obligated to compete at World Fitness Project. They just get a 0 if they don't show up. Haley Adams did not compete at Tour Event 1, and she was assigned pro. Like, she's not in violation of her agreement. She just got a 0 points for Tour Event 1, so she's now behind on total points for the season. If she wants to keep her pro card for 2026, she's just in the hole.
Yeah.
She still has the ability to show up to Tour 2 and the finals and get enough points to make it, but she's just starting behind everybody else. Right. So that's the intent of what World Fitness Project is from a sports side. And then from a community side, we also have a community aspect where we're engaging with gyms. We have what's called the Fitness Project, where they're, for lack of a better word, gym affiliates. We have a program where you can become a Fitness Project gym. That is not my side. I'm on the sports side. We have a Fitness Project team, that sales team and everything, that we have a full thing that we're doing on that side as well. So we're not just sport. We are getting into the community. We have events that are going on at our events called Project One, which are going to be like very low barrier to entry workouts that for $50 you can sign up and run through. Their little 45 minute workouts that you can go through, ski, box jumps, sled pushes, sandbags, all those types of things that are really hard fitness tests, but their skill level is extremely low. So low barrier to entry. So that, in a nutshell, is what World Fitness Project is currently.
Nice. Yeah. So what do you think the, I as somebody who's watched CrossFit for a long time, I've always wondered, when CrossFit was going to figure out basically what you guys are solving, which is basically the, how are athletes who are, at sometimes having to train all day, every day, how are those people able to do that if they're not receiving any money for doing it? And also, I've always thought that it's weird that they don't get a pro card, because, it's like, if you think about a pro card, it allows you to go through an off season. So let's say you have a weakness, and right. It's like, I need to get stronger in my squat. Well, if you have a pro card and you're qualified for the next year, well, you can spend the whole off season just focusing on that, and not feel like they have to, ramp up through just this one specific time. What do you think the reason that CrossFit never figured that out?
I just think that sport was still evolving.
Yeah.
I think when Glassman sold the sport, it was still evolving.
Yeah.
And once he stepped away and private equity money came in, then I don't think, and again, I don't sit at the table of CrossFit, so I don't know. I'm looking at it from an outsider standpoint looking in. From an outsider standpoint looking in, I've been a CrossFit affiliate owner. I've had a small seat at the table with the Masters CrossFit Games when they basically pawned the Masters CrossFit Games off of the CrossFit Games, where they didn't have to run them anymore. And so I got to know enough, like, when there's not a person that runs a company, and I'm not talking about a CEO, I'm talking about like a Greg Glassman that is at the top, that started CrossFit, that came up with CrossFit, that, bled CrossFit, there's not a structure in place that ideas can flow. It's got to go to a board, and it's got to go to attorneys, and it's everything is slow to move. And that's probably the biggest challenge I think that they probably face, is they probably have great ideas and they probably get stopped at the executive board. Would be my guess.
Yeah. It just seems like, especially there was a point there where you had like Matt Frazier really coming on the scene, that I was like, they're going to figure this out. They're going to figure out some way of like,
they were real close.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that never. So how is the World Fitness Project going so far? Like, what was I told you before that we started the podcast, I watched some of the live stream of the event, and I thought it was a major step up from any basically CrossFit event that I'd seen prior, as far as like the production quality of it, and the announcing, which CrossFit Games, they used to have like similar, they used to have like an actual media team that was pretty good.
That was the change of CrossFit when that went away.
Yeah. Once that went away, it was almost like, what's going on here? You can't really tell what's going on the live streams, but I feel like you guys, the World Fitness Project did pretty good at that. And then it introduced like the music, the lights, it made it more entertaining to watch, and, tell us what is that the future that you guys are going for, is to continue to make, basically drive in more audience.
I think you guys have just seen the tip of the iceberg.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Of the plans of where we're going. So, we've had one event.
Yeah.
And that one event, I didn't get hired until December 16th. And I didn't really start working until January 5th. And we had an event in May. So, it was a lot. Yeah. And, my qualifier was going on in February, and trying to wrap my head around, what we were trying to do, like understand the vision of the company, and make sure that, I hired my wife as my right hand. Like, I needed someone sitting in the chair next to me every day, driving what we were doing, because we're spread out all over the country. Will Moorhead lives in Nashville. Our director of operations and his wife live in Hawaii. Our owners live in Alabama. And then our brand partnership managers and fitness project manager lives in West Virginia. Wow. So it was like, I needed somebody at my side that knew me and knew how I thought, to be like, hey, help me drive this forward, because we're the only ones with any experience in this. And they're looking to us for guidance and direction. And I don't want to pretend like I can carry that on my own. She's helped me with Monster Games since day one. Like, she knows how I think, and she knows what I need. And it's like, I need it. And so I just said, hey, if you're taking me, like, we need her. We thought we were going to bring in somebody else that was going to be my assistant, because she wasn't sure she needed that role in her life. She's like, maybe we need to separate that. And then we went and met with them at their home in Hawaii, spent the week with them. And the last day, we're sitting at our condo drinking coffee, getting ready to go to our last meeting before we fly home, as we were like we're launching this season. It was like the flight home from Hawaii was going to be very scary, because like, okay, now it's real. Mm-hmm. And we're having coffee, and she looked over and she's like, hey, I think I want to be the person that's your assistant. And I was just like, okay. So we went and told them, and they're like, well, we were wondering why you guys didn't do that from the beginning, because it makes total sense. So that made the flight home like.
Have you always been in that role as far as like Monster Games go?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm the
you just were
event admin. I just didn't know about the people. We had never met them till we flew to Hawaii, really, and I had never met them, but I loved who they were. I loved what they stood for. I loved what they believed. They're good people, and it was just something that, and I honestly thought that I could probably do the job that he needed probably better than a different person, just because we've worked hand in hand for the last 8 years.
Yeah. So you can't beat that, the experience that you guys have had together. Yeah. Yeah. That's I'm excited to see, where it keeps going, because I think that, it's something that the fitness world needs. And I think that though, CrossFit as a brand might be taking a hit in the last couple of years, I think fitness in general is actually going way up.
I mean, look, I agree with you 100%. And it's like, we catch a lot of grief from certain sects of the CrossFit space, because for multiple reasons. They think, we won't sit here and admit that we're competing against CrossFit, but the reality is like, we didn't set out to compete against CrossFit. We set out to go compete in the space of fitness. Yeah. And CrossFit sits in the space of fitness. Mm-hmm. And if we go do our job properly, then we're going to be competing against CrossFit. And if we don't do our job properly, if we don't cast our vision properly and go put on good events, then we won't be competing against anybody. Right. But we compete against High Rocks. We compete against CrossFit. We compete against, marathon runners, triathlons. We competing for that space. Like, it's important. You're going to see some stuff that gets released in 2026 that's not going to look like CrossFit. like it's going to look more like overall general fitness, where we, maybe we do an ultra marathon run with our pro athletes. Like there's a lot of things we're going to do that CrossFit will never do.
Man, did you guys, sorry to get off subject here. Did you guys see Nick Bear's?
Oh yeah. Nick's the man.
Bro, that was
He's
so
the
cool.
man. Yeah.
I was like,
that's honestly where we're like, if we really want to crown, the world fitness champ, like, and that's what our meetings are. Our meetings are not about like, how can we crown the fittest on earth? That's CrossFit is doing that, and that is their thing. We're not trying to do that. We sit around the table and we stress about how can we put our athletes in the best position to where they can go compete against the best in the world at kind of everything.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, they're going to have to swim. CrossFit's getting away from swimming because of the incident that happened. I swim at Monster Games. I feel like I can handle it. I feel like I pay attention to it and I understand the risk involved. And so therefore that is the responsibility that I own myself. And if I can handle it, we can handle it. So, we're encompassing running. Running is a huge aspect of fitness, and to ignore that's just silly.
Yeah, I don't like it, but
I hate running. Like it's stupid. Look how you and I are built.
I was about to say all of us here. It's we're not runners.
Like, no,
give us a barbell.
Right. Give me a barbell all day long. But it doesn't mean that I would sit here and argue with you that somebody that can do all of those things really efficiently is not fitter than me, because they probably are.
Yeah.
It sucks. That's always been the truth. And so when we sit around a table and we're casting a vision for 2026, it's not about like how many more CrossFit movements can we put in. We're like, how many can we take out and still get to where we're wanting to go, and how can we test them that way?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's definitely true that the general fitness, and you said something earlier where it's like the lower skilled fitness. And I mean, that's just essentially what it is. It's, lower skilled, lower barrier to
100%.
entry events are becoming way more popular. High Rocks is being like the kings of that.
Yeah. Low skill doesn't mean not fit.
Yeah, it's still ridiculous. I mean, if you look at what those guys are averaging, on the 800 meters, or is it 1,000 meters?
It's 1,000.
1,000 meter runs.
It's 1,000
crazy.
8 times, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's not. I'm like, can we do more wall balls, more sled, more just lower to 400?
Yeah.
But I guess not.
less burpee broad jumps though.
Yeah. So let's get back to talking about Monster Games
absolutely.
real quick. So, how many events are you guys planning to have in Monster Games? Like how many specific workouts?
Basically, we're going to have 7 scorers. So our elite athletes and our RX athletes and RX teams are going to swim, and not everybody's going to swim. And this is, I'm all over the place on this, because when we introduced swimming, you would have thought that I was trying to kill everyone. And then once everybody, and I am the type of guy that I'm like, I know you don't like it. I want you to do it anyway. I want you to come here. And I know you're scared. I want you to get in the water, and I want you to swim anyway. Like, I don't care if you get last. I care that you get in the water and you try. And so that's always been my mantra. And so I introduced that. Well, when we were at Missouri Southern, we had, in Joplin, and we swam at Schiffendecker, we had 14 lanes we could swim in, and so we could figure out a way to do it. And so last year it was probably the first time that we swam everybody that I'm like, we didn't give everybody the workout that they deserve, because we tried to swim everyone. And I'm too big to swim everybody. Mm-hmm. So this year we made a pivot, and, also, the pool's 50 meters in length instead of 25 this year, so it takes a little bit better swimmer. And you just can't. I mean, I have 930 athletes. Like, do the math real quick on 8 lanes, and you can imagine how long it's a
long little,
Yeah, it's just like we'll be done at 10:30 on Friday night. Like, I can't do that. So we are only swimming our elites, our RX, and our RX teams. And so it's a nasty workout. It has rope climbs and swimming in it, and it's bad.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a cool combo.
It's a great combo.
Because it's like, I don't even know where you're going to hang the ropes from. You got to run inside Meshuggah to get to them.
No, it's really cool, because they have, like, where your starting blocks go, they've built these like arms that go out over the water. So they remove the starting blocks, built these, like, they look like a hangman thing. They go out over the water. It's got a rope that hangs down over the water.
Oh, you climb out of the water.
You climb out of the water.
Yeah. It's like it gets harder the farther you get.
I was about to say.
That's what,
It is a very unique test. And it's like, we pride ourselves in doing I want to do something different every year that you can't train. And this is impossible to train unless you live in Overland Park.
Yeah.
Like, there's just nobody has this.
That's
and
crazy.
So we had Chris Abar and Olivia Kerstetter tested it today. And, they're both going to the CrossFit Games, and they got done at the workout and they're like, that was hard.
That sucked.
Yeah. Olivia goes, I feel like it shouldn't be that hard for a games athlete to do one of your workouts. And I'm like, no, that's perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So there's 7 events and it's going to be in a couple different locations.
Yeah. So we're generally speaking, we're at the Overland Park Convention Center. That's where everything takes place. But we kick off the weekend Friday offsite at the Jewish Community Center of Greater Kansas City called the J.
Yeah.
They have a really cool pool. They have a cool facility in general, but they have a really nice pool, and then they have turf baseball fields. So there's going to be a swim event, and then going into for again, lack of a better word, it's a very high rock style endurance workout, which is kind of what we're known for, our bad endurance workouts, which fit Jacob Hepner really well. That's why we're known for that.
I was kind of hoping you were going to say home run derby.
That's just what I would want.
That would be better. Just get it out here. Who can hit the most dingers?
Yeah.
Well, cool guys.
So we're releasing that workout Monday. So we always try. We're late releasing it, to be honest with you, because I've been busy.
Yeah,
and
sounds like
doing too many things, and so. But we will be releasing the full swim workout and the full field workout on Monday. So we do want people to train for it and prep for it and understand it. But other than that, I don't release anything until the Monday of the event.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool. I wanted to go back and talk about something real quick. So obviously you mentioned the swimming. CrossFit Games had the issue with the unfortunate passing of his name was Lazar last year.
Yeah.
You know, with that happening, you know, does that in any way, have you guys seen like any pullback, you know, from any of your events in you know, people that complain about like swimming or, you know, want to ask about the safety protocols that are in place or anything like that? Because I saw a lot of cries for that in the right after that. And a lot of those people actually left to go focus on World Fitness Project, I believe, after that. So I just didn't know if you had any more insight on that, or if, you know.
I mean, I was there. I mean, Chris Ibarra is one of my athletes that was there that I coached, and so proud of him for making it. And I just had to be there to watch him. And I had another a team games athlete that I was helping coach as well. And so I was actually there on site when it happened. And, you know, I cut my teeth in CrossFit. And just because I'm not part of the quote unquote CrossFit Games sport community anymore doesn't mean that it didn't affect me and that I don't root for the sport to do well, because I do. Regardless of what anybody says, you know, I love to see, you know, feats of athletic ability. I just do. It's in my DNA. So it was hard to watch. Mm-hmm. It was hard to watch. It was sad, you know, and again, I'm not in the background. I don't understand all of the safety protocols that we're not taking. So I'm not here to say whether I know what we do. I know that when we have a pool and we have 8 lanes, we have 4 lifeguards. I mean, that's, you know, that's a lifeguard for you know, for every 2 people, which is a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think they were closer to like 1 for 20 in an open water swim. So, but again, I'm not here to cast judgment on what they did. I know that it was hard on the sport when that happened. It was hard on a lot of people, and we have not had a swimming event at Monster Games since that happened. This will be the first one. And so people, of course, I get a lot of messages. Are we swimming? Are we swimming? And I was like, yes, we're swimming. Well, what are you doing? And the same thing we've always done, because I've always taken safety extremely important. We have a medical team. Josh Hicks, who has been the head of medical of the CrossFit space forever, he's been my medical guy for 2 years. So we're already doing that. I already had a VAPs written. I take all that stuff very seriously. As we started getting big, we realized it was a hole in what we were doing. And it was like, we have too many athletes here to manage. If something happens, like, we have to make it a priority. And Josh actually reached out to me, and he's like, hey, I want to help you. And he didn't charge me. And he wrote all of my EAPs for me, walked through the weekend for me, and it's just like free of charge. And I'm like, brother, what are you doing? Yeah. And now World Fitness Project hired him. So Josh and I are very close, and he'll be at Monster Games. Him and his team will be at Monster Games, and it's important. And he's like, your event is much harder than the CrossFit Games because you have 950 Gen Pop athletes with a few elite. The CrossFit Games is all elite athletes. Yeah. Like, we have to watch you guys way more closely. Mm-hmm. And it makes total sense because it's different. So, but yeah, you know, going back to that is like, I came home with a heavy heart. You know, we were running the Masters CrossFit Games 2 weeks after that happened. And I remember
it seemed impossible to me. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
You know, like
It didn't seem real.
Yeah. That's what I guess it
one of
took
those
a
things.
second for like it to kind of sink in, like that could actually happen, you know, because it was such a big, you know, it's a big event. Lots of people were watching it.
Yeah.
There was lots of people out there.
Yeah, you don't want that to happen to any sport.
Yeah.
You just don't. And you know, I was sitting there across from our event director for Legends, which we were running the match. I go, I don't know if we're going to have our event in 2 weeks. And he just kind of looked at me and he's just like, do you think it's possible that I go, yeah, I think it's possible they don't have the rest of the weekend here. And there's definitely not going to be a Masters CrossFit Games in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And there was, but there's definitely talk of there not being. And that was scary.
My God, as a guy who runs events, were you like, because you have like the heavy heart on one side where you're thinking like, my gosh, like this is terrible. You know,
immediately once that passes, you go into straight business.
Yeah,
mode.
then
what would you do?
Yeah.
That's what I kept getting text. Hey, what would you do? And I'm like, oh man, I'm not answering this question in text. First of all.
But it seems like an impossible, like whatever you choose is the wrong answer.
I
Almost.
agree.
There's no way.
I agree.
I mean, we talked about it. You know, we read all the comments online, what was going on. I think everybody that was in the space that cared did. And I went back and forth on it. I had a unique position because I had an actual athlete that I was responsible for that weekend, driving around and taking it and talking to him and to understand what he was thinking and to understand what like Olivia, you know, not Olivia, but Emily, who was on a team athlete, was thinking. Emily Torres was on a team athlete, a team competing that I was also helping. And so to listen to them and talk to them, it was a different perspective.
Yeah.
Chris was a rookie.
Yeah.
And so he was torn with.
He was probably like, I've been training, like, I want to go.
I want to go. And
Yeah.
then he's just like, but all these guys that have been in the game multiple times that knew Lazar really well, they were done.
Yeah.
And that has to be okay too.
Yeah.
But I told Chris, I was like, you have to feel what you feel. If you know, you just understand that if the games continue on, next year you're going to feel like a rookie again because this year is like,
Super strange.
it's not the norm. It's super strange. And you're going to have, if you make it back next year, you're going to have 2 rookie years, and just know next year is going to be different than this year is. So don't take anything you learned from this year and think that that's what next year is going to feel like. Cause it's not.
Yeah.
You're going through something that nobody generally has to go through. So I went back and forth on it, but, do I think CrossFit made the right decision? From a business standpoint, probably.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine the lawsuits that would fall from everybody that did. They were in a no-win situation. That's my opinion. And that's the text that we got. What would you do?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and Heidi and I talked a lot, and I was like, we have a group of people around us that we trust a lot. And I think if something that tragic at our level would have happened, I think we gather those people in a room and, you know, as we say, hey, here's what we're going to do. And we don't make the decision where it's just her and I. You have to bring other people of influence into those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of that just also goes back to what you were talking about earlier, where it's like it is this one focal event, you know, of the year.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this is it. This is what people have been training for all year long. This is what sponsors, you know, have paid a bunch of money into. This is what people bought tickets to come to the event.
Some of it's their vacation.
You know? Yeah, and so it's like you kind of, you know, I watched the rest of it, but I was like, man, this is kind of just a no-win situation.
It was very weird being there.
Yeah. And like I said, I was also, you know, just like you said, I was kind of like, it's not good for the sport. That's not good. You know, it's sad. It's not good for the sport. It's also an impossible situation to try and do.
I mean, you've already got a stigma of like CrossFit's super dangerous.
Yeah.
And I've always said doing anything at 100% max effort is super dangerous.
Yeah. Like
Olympic weightlifting, max effort above your head is super dangerous. Like elbows snap all the time. It's dangerous.
I don't want to talk about it.
He blew out his shoulder this year.
It's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, I've done it. I mean, I'm a competitive athlete, and of course my body's breaking down, but I've torn ligaments in both my thumbs and had 2 torn meniscus, and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And would I have done all those things if I was just walking around? No. But, you know, I also wouldn't be as healthy and fit as I am either. So, sport is dangerous when you're going 100 miles an hour. Giving maximum effort is dangerous.
It felt a lot like DeMar Hamlin. You know, when
Yes.
the DeMar Hamlin thing happened, I felt like the same way. Like,
Yeah.
how is this happening? You know, you kind of feel like almost a shock about it, but then you realize, like, well, it happens because people run 1,000,000 miles an hour into each other and things.
Look, man,
Yeah.
the NFL
Yeah.
is amazing that there has not been a death on the field.
Yeah. It is crazy.
How is that even possible?
I don't know.
That I can't get over it. It's going to happen one day. And it's honestly, it's not anybody like everyone's going to flip out over it, like end it all. But like it could have happened 15 years ago. It could happen tomorrow. Like the risk is always there.
Yeah.
The risk is always there in our World Fitness Project. The risk is there for someone to have a fatal moment. It's there. It's everyone. I choose that risk too. I could have gotten hurt as a masters athlete competing at Shredfest. Like I could have. Something could have happened. I could have had a heart attack. I mean, I'm old, right? Anything can happen. But as long as your safety team knows what they're doing and they're there and they're preparing for it, it's like that's all that you can ask. And I don't really know enough to understand if CrossFit did or did not follow those protocols. Not really my business at this point. But I do know that. That if I, as an event director, and Heidi and I talk through what we're going to do as medical, if we're falling, it can happen at our event. It can. Yeah. We know that, and that's a risk that we do, and it's a risk as an athlete that you sign. My liability waivers say that you agree that you could have a life altering event, and you sign it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta live, man.
You gotta live.
You can't. You know, it's like you make trade-offs in life all the time, you know, like, and I think that it's sad that happened, but it's part of life. You know, you could have also got hit by a car. Or
as Al Pacino says in Heat, you can get killed walking your doggy.
That's true. That is true. That is true.
It's my favorite line.
So, the last question that we always ask, unless you guys had anything else to add about Monster Games, the last question we ask all of our guests, it's the most important question, you know, and since you guys have a new event up in Kansas City, you're going to have to get very well versed in the barbecue game.
Okay.
What is you guys' favorite barbecue?
Heidi?
Is Webb City got a hopping barbecue scene?
We have nothing down there.
No, it is not.
I think I'm open to suggestions. I think I've probably only had a couple of barbecues.
So I can tell you what we eat when we're at Jacob's, and he orders barbecue.
Yeah.
And he lives here. So we always order Oklahoma Joe's.
Oklahoma Joe's is great. Yeah.
So we do that.
He lives out on the west side of town. You guys need to try Slaps.
Yes. Okay, I've heard that and I've never had it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so good.
Maybe we go there tonight.
Yeah. Burn-ins there. Phenomenal.
Slaps.
But I'm also, I will say.
Squeal like a pig is what it stands for.
Okay. Okay.
I am a Q39 guy,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
I think it's a little too bougie barbecue for me.
It is bougie barbecue, but it is really good.
It's fine, but I'm like, it's just a little like, I like a messy plate.
Yeah.
It just feels very much like.
It's a little fancier.
Yes.
If you like a messy plate, you'll like Slaps. It's
Okay.
like, get in line. I'm going to put it on there.
Yeah.
It's going to be like
That's
a
what I
styrofoam
prefer.
plate and some white bread, and here you go.
Yeah, see, I kind of.
That's more. He's a little more bougie than I am.
That's true.
Q39 is so good, though. And they also
good.
are beyond, like they have the, what is it? The smoked.
It's their
pig.
wings, man.
Oh yeah,
their wings.
they have
They're double smoked wings.
so good. Yeah, I agree. Q39 is really good. Oklahoma Joe's has got the Z-Man, the most popular, sandwich in all of Kansas City. So both of those are great. Afterwards, the athletes that compete at the Monster Games, either of these would be great recovery.
No, because we're doing something different.
What are we doing?
So we just went to serve this morning.
Okay.
We're having an after party.
Nice.
So here's the thing about living in Joplin. Everybody tries to get out of there as fast as humanly possible. So
they're like, I have to drive somewhere to find an airport to get out of
Kansas
here.
City
Yeah.
to catch a 6 a.m. flight in the morning. Yeah. So we went to serve today, met them. They actually called us. It's like, hey, we'd like to host you guys here. I'm like, okay, let's go check it out. And it's like, he's like, well, how big are you? I'm like, look, we have 1,000 athletes and 200 volunteers. So now some people leave on Sunday, but there's going to be a big chunk of people that don't. So where can we go that can host a couple hundred people and just have fun, like cut loose. The weekend's over. Let's decompress. I don't have to think anymore. I don't have to do anything. I just need to have fun. And I love to, be able to mingle with the athletes. Doesn't get to happen for me very often.
Yeah.
And so this is an opportunity that I hope they take. And if they're not leaving till Monday, man, I hope we have an awesome time. So I'm looking forward to that.
Where is Serve at? It's
in Overland.
pickleball, right?
It's pickleball, and they have 4 different restaurants inside. So
Yeah,
it basically started as like a food truck.
Yeah.
And now they have 4 different food trucks, but all of the chefs are owned by Serve. And they have like 8 pickleball courts and big TVs and outdoors. So if it's hot, we can be indoors. But you never know. You might get lucky, on a Sunday night in late July.
Could be nice. Good luck. Good luck. It's probably going to be 100 degrees, but
Yeah. But I'm kind of looking forward to that. Like we put a lot of hard work and effort into it, and Monster Games it's important to us. We left the gym space and we had to buy Monster Games outright in order to own the rights to continue moving on with our ex-business partner. And so, we take it very serious. Although it's fun and and we wouldn't trade it for anything. It's a lot of work, and we take it serious because we're asking people to spend a lot of money over the course of a weekend. And there are 44 different states people are coming in from this year.
That's very cool.
And 7 different countries. So we have people from Canada and Mexico. We have 4 from Italy coming in. We have 2 from South America. We have 2 from Egypt.
Let's go. Egypt.
Yeah. Why? I don't know. Maybe
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
How long have you guys been partnered with First Form? When was the first year you guys became
this
hooked up with them?
This is just now year 4.
Yeah.
So,
I know some of my buddies had competed at
2022, 2023, 2024, where they've signed a 3-year deal with it, and we just picked them up again.
Awesome, man.
So they've been having a competition during COVID, and the relationship that we developed with Jacob Hepner over the years. Those 3 things have been pivotal for people taking us seriously.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Sal, the president of First Form.
Yeah.
Me and him used to get down at CrossFit 314 at 5 a.m. every day when I first started doing CrossFit. And this is past Jeremy Meyer, because after Jeremy made me do Fran, I said, I'm not doing that anymore. It took 4 years before I came back to it. And then me and Sal used to do CrossFit with, I don't know if you know Will Grumpke.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, Will's a big part of why First Form is a part of Monster Games.
Yeah.
I mean, if Will doesn't like you, you're not getting in.
I told Will in 2013. I said, Will, we're at like a Christmas party together, and I said, he was talking about CrossFit, and I said, dude, I don't even know what the CrossFit Open is, but how long away is it? He's like, it's like a month away. I said, I guarantee I could start training CrossFit and I could beat you in a month. And he's like, I'll take that bet. And, and so we bet, and I couldn't beat him in a month because I couldn't even get in a front rack in a month's time or have any shoulder mobility. I had no idea how much learning curve I was looking down the barrel of it. And he was like, told you.
The hardest thing about leaving the space of competing all the time is the front rack is the first thing that goes. Because we train in our garage now.
Yeah.
That's just what we do. We train every day in our garage. I don't have young training partners pushing me. I'm not pushing myself at this point, so I'm kind of returned back to my meathead days, and my front rack is gone.
Yeah, dude. Sometimes I want to get back to the meathead days. Just do some bench, do some side laterals. You know what I'm saying?
Just when you turn 50, you can start again.
Yeah, I'm almost there. Hey,
you got a little ways.
13 years.
That's a ways. Trust me, that's a ways.
So tell everybody where they can find you. Where they can find out more about Monster Games and how to get tickets to come watch in Kansas City, because you guys should come watch the event in Kansas City at the end of July. When the event is
July 25th, 26th, and 27th, Overland Park Convention Center. Tickets are on sale at Eventbrite now underneath First Form Monster Games. We are on Instagram as at First Form Monster Games. Our website is themonstergames.com. Fun fact about our Instagram account: I was up to 10,000 followers and got hacked.
No.
Lost my account, tried to buy it back with Bitcoin.
Oh,
and,
no.
The whole thing, man.
God damn.
I had to start over last year.
This sounds like another podcast here.
That's a whole nother podcast. I had to start over last year. So, started back at 0 last April.
Did they ever find out where it was from, or, who hacked it?
I just know they didn't speak English.
That's how that always goes.
Yes.
That is how that always goes. Some random country. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you guys so much.
for
I'm looking
having us.
forward to the event. Like I said, I'm excited about what you guys are bringing to Kansas City. Very excited to see, what all workouts get rolled out outside of the swimming and rope climb.
We're going to lift some weights. We're going to do some fun stuff.
Some weights. I like it. It. Cool. Thank you guys for listening, and like and share, subscribe if you follow us and enjoyed the content. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.